Tipsy Dragon Players present A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, adapted for the stage by Kevin Neuharth, adapted for podcast by Jacob Jenkins.
Marley was dead to begin with, there's no doubt about that. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Now this must be distinctly understood or nothing wonderful can come from the story I'm going to relate. In fact, it was 7 years ago this very Christmas Eve that Marley, Ebeneezer Scrooge's only friend, if a friend he could be called, died. Upon Marley's death, Scrooge took on a clerk, Bob Cratchit, who for a mere 15 shillings a week had diligently toiled for Mr. Scrooge these past 7 years. Though oppressed in spirit by the uncaring of Scrooge, Cratchit yet somehow maintained a happy, hopeful demeanor filled with love for his family and fellow man.
Come along now, Martha. You must not be late, and I certainly must arrive before Mr. Scrooge.
I know, Father, but don't we have time for just one carol? It puts me in such a good mood.
Oh, my darling. Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year. Here we are, and before Mr. Scrooge, go on straight to the factory, my dear. Tonight, we'll sing on the way home.
Yes, Father. And, Father, don't forget to ask Mr. Scrooge.
Yes. I won't forget. Now, run along now.
Scrooge was hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. He was a squeezing, retching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, and stiffened his gait. You will note that nobody attempts to stop him with a, "My dear Scrooge, how are you?"
Must a man be plagued in his own office by such caterwauling in the street?
It's just some Christmas carolers, sir.
Well, did I ask them to come this way? Did you ask them?
No, sir.
Then pay attention to what you're copying and let me get my work finished. Cratchit! Have you lost your wits?
No, sir. I mean, I don't think so, sir.
Well, I think so. Precisely what do you mean by burning a candle in the middle of the day?
I'm sorry, sir, but it was so cold and dark, and I couldn't see.
See? I don't pay you to be comfortable. And as for seeing...
But, sir...
Silence! Unless you are prepared to find employment elsewhere. I thought not. Now go back to work.
Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
Ah, humbug.
Christmas? A humbug? Uncle, surely you can't mean that.
I do. Merry Christmas indeed, Fred. What right have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Come then. What right have you to be angry? You're rich enough, aren't you?
Ah, humbug.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas.
But, Uncle...
Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? Time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart, he should.
Uncle...
Nephew, you keep Christmas in your way and I'll keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep it.
Well, let me leave it alone then. Much good it may do you, much good it has ever done you. Bah.
There are many things from which I might have derived good,
Nephew.
by which I have not profited.
Why?
I dare say Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, as a good time. A kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year. A time when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say God bless it.
Hear, hear.
Silence, Cratchit. Silence, or you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. And as for you, nephew, You're quite a powerful speaker, sir. You should go into politics.
Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. You have not yet met Mary, my wife.
Tell me, nephew, why did you marry this creature?
Uncle, what an odd question. We married because we love each other. You should try it, Uncle. You might like it.
Love, humbug. What has love to do with the business of making money? How much money have you made by this union?
Not everything is about money, Uncle. Now, please come dine with us.
Dine with you? Well, of course I'll dine with you.
You will? Wonderful.
I'll come dine with you when it snows in the middle of July and not one moment before. Good afternoon.
But why, Uncle? Why?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, Uncle, to see you so set in your thinking. However, I'll keep the Christmas spirit in spite of your ill humor. Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Bah.
And a Happy New Year.
Bug.
And a Merry Christmas to you and yours, Bob Cratchit.
Thank you, sir, and the same to you, sir.
Cratchit?
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas. You have a wife and 4 children to feed on 15 shillings a week, and you talk about Merry Christmas? I'll retire to Bedlam.
Excuse me, sir. At this festive
Come
time...
in, my good men. Come in.
Thank you, sir. And Merry Christmas.
Goodbye, Fred.
Merry Christmas.
Excuse me, sir. Scrooge and Marley's, I believe.
Yes.
Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Well, that's Mr. Scrooge. Mr. Marley.
Mr. Marley has been dead these past 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
What a shame to die on Christmas Eve. I am sorry.
Oh, don't be. My partner had a successful life and died a rich man.
Well, then, we have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. Our credentials, sir.
Good afternoon.
This will take but a moment, sir.
At this festive time of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should take some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Well, are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons, sir.
Well, aren't the union workhouses still in operation?
They are. However, I wish I could say they were not.
Oh, I see. I was afraid from what you said at first that something had happened to stop them from their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
Well, I should hardly call a prison or workhouse good. Why, they make the poor suffer even more. There is little cheer of mind or body inside those dark walls. That is why we are trying to raise a small fund of money to provide them with some meat and drink and means of warmth.
We choose this time of year because of all other days, this is the day when want is most keenly felt and plenty is most freely given. What shall we put you down for, Mr. Scrooge?
Put me down. Nothing.
Nothing? You wish to remain anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make myself merry at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those that are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
Well, if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
But, sir...
It's not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with others. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
But, Mr. Scrooge, think of the poor.
Take leave of my office, sirs, while I am still smiling.
Very well. Good day, sir. And Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to both of you.
What's this?
Merry Christmas.
Ugh, the poor. Why must I be the one to help people just because they're poor? Let them suffer their own fate.
Pardon me, sir, but it is the end of day bell.
Very well.
Sir?
Yes.
Well, Sir,
I suppose you'll want the whole day off tomorrow.
if it's quite convenient, sir.
Well, it's not convenient, and it's not fair. I suppose if I stopped a half-crown from your wages, you'd think yourself ill-used. Yet you expect me to give you a full day's wage for no work at all? Bah.
But, sir, Christmas comes but once a year.
That's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. However, I suppose you must have your day, but be here all the earlier the next morning.
Oh, I will, sir. I will. I promise you, and sir.
Don't say it, Cratchit. I warn you.
Oh, but, sir.
Cratchit!
Oh, all right then, sir. Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge.
With the parting joy, Cratchit goes off into the night, and as he saunters home, he enjoys the merriment of Christmas, but all pale in comparison to what awaits him as he turns the corner.
Oh, Father,
Martha, what are you doing here?
I've been so anxious to know if Mr. Scrooge gave you... You know what I mean.
Yes, chap, I know.
There's a beautiful fat goose at the poulterer's, and if your Christmas raise is big enough...
It isn't. It isn't big enough.
Then maybe a very small goose. Tiny Tim's eyes will light up like candles when he sees Mother put it on the table.
Martha, there is no raise.
None?
I couldn't ask him for fear of losing my situation.
Then we'll have no goose. But we'll have a real feast anyway. I'm sure Mother's plum pudding will be better than ever.
It always is.
Let some tidings be which inspire your heavenly song. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
The office was closed in a twinkling, and old Scrooge took to the streets to have a melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern. Satisfied of hunger, if it's possible for Scrooge to be satisfied, he began his short walk home as those around him made merry.
Ah, humbug.
A young man, unwatching for others, finds himself entangled with Scrooge, who, for a moment, sees a familiar face.
Out of my way. What? Marley? That's nonsense. Marley's been dead these past 7 years tonight.
A penny for Christmas, sir.
Out of my way. Humbug.
In this steady, sullen way, Scrooge makes his way to his home. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it, night and morning, during his whole residence in that place. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon. And then let anyone explain to me, if you can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, without its undergoing any intermediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face. As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again.
Bah, humbug.
To say that he was not startled would be untrue. He did pause before he shut the door, and he did look cautiously behind it first. He fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs. Up Scrooge went in the darkness. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked that. He closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus, secured against surprise, he took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers, and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire.
That wind has chilled me to the bone. It is comforting for a man to be alone and safe in his own house. No one to talk to, no one to bother him, no one picking his pocket. True comfort.
As he sat, he looked about the room and happened to glance up a bell, a disused bell, that hung in the room. It was with great astonishment and with a strange, inexplicable dread that as he looked, he saw this bell began to swing.
must have eaten too quickly.
A thump and a rattle came from below. Then coming up the stairs. Then coming straight toward his door.
Ebeneezer Scrooge.
Yeah? Who goes there? Who calls my name?
Ebeneezer Scrooge.
It's a humbug still. I won't believe it.
Ebeneezer Scrooge.
How now? What do you want of me?
Much.
Well, who are you?
Ask who I was.
Well, who were you then?
In life, I was your business partner, Jacob Marley.
Marley. Have the look of Jacob Marley. Bah!
You don't believe in me?
I do not.
Do you not see me?
I do.
And yet you doubt your own senses?
Aye, because every little thing affects them. Why, you may be a bit of undigested beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, or a fragment of underdone potato. There's more of gravy than the grave about you, whatever you are. Bah. Well, it's a humbug, I tell you. Mercy. Dreadful apparition, mercy, why do you trouble me so?
Selfish man! Do you believe in me or not?
I must, I do. But why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that his spirit walk among his fellow man, far and wide. If he does not go forth in life, he is condemned to do so after death. His spirit is doomed to travel the world to witness the happiness of his survivors, witnessing the misery of those he refused to share just 1 ounce of human kindness with.
Must everyone do this? And, dear Jacob, why are you locked under the heavy burden of these chains?
Oh, I wear the chains I forged in life. I made them, link by link, yard by yard. Of my own free will I made them, and of my own free will I wore them. Is the pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and length of the coil you bear yourself? It was full and heavy, and long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Jacob? Old Jacob Marley. Tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give. Comfort comes from other regions, Ebeneezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. A very little more is all that is permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. Oh! My whole life was spent in our counting house. Mark me, my whole life spent in the narrow limits of our money-changing hole, and never a step among our fellow man. Now I must wander for all times to come. Oh.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. It is at this time of the passing year I suffer most. Why did I walk through the crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never raise them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor domicile? Was there no poor home to which its light would have conducted me? Hear me? My time is nearly gone.
I will, but be gentle with me, Jacob.
How is it that I appear before you in the shape that you can see me? I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many a day. That is no light part of my penance. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope, Ebeneezer.
You were always a good friend to me. Thank you.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Haunted? Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow, when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second...
Couldn't I just take them all at once and have it over, Jacob?
Expect the second on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more. And for your own sake, remember what has passed between us.
Jacob? No, Jacob, don't leave me. I'm frightened. No one here at all. Did I imagine all of that? Oh, I did. It only happened in the foulest dream, mind. It was just an undigested bit of... Oh, I'm sorry!
Scrooge checked the closed window and examined the door by which the ghost had entered. It was double locked, as he had locked it with his own hands, and the bolt was undisturbed. And being much in need of repose, Scrooge went straight to bed and fell asleep upon the instant. A deep, dull, hollow tone rang out in the night. 1. Scrooge woke with a start.
The hour itself.
No sooner had the words left his mouth than a light flashed up in the room in an instant. Now standing face to face with the sitting Scrooge stood an unearthly visitor. It was a strange figure. Like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old woman, viewed through some supernatural medium, which gave her the appearance of being diminished to a child's proportions. From its head sprung a bright, clear jet of light.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
Well, may I ask, please, madam, or whatever you are, what business have you here with me?
Your welfare.
Well, I'm much obliged, but I feel a good night's sleep without interruption would be much better.
Your reclamation, then.
Well, how much will this reclamation cost me?
Take heed, rise, and walk with me.
Where are you taking me?
Touch of my hand, and you will go back in time.
Well, I'm not all that sure I want to go back.
Why?
Don't ask me that.
Then you must ask yourself.
I've tried to forget some of the things that happened in the past. I've worked to become a rich, successful man. Why should I look back?
Are you afraid?
No. Well, yes, maybe I am. A little bit.
Touch my hand.
As Scrooge took the spirit's hand, the room about him seemed to turn to ash and then blow away in the wind, leaving Scrooge and the spirit standing on an undisturbed country road with fields on either end. It was a clear, cold, wintry day with fresh snow upon the ground.
Good heavens. I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling, Mr. Scrooge. What is that upon your cheek?
Nothing. It's a blemish. Nothing. Kind spirit, lead me where you will, but quickly. To remain in this place for me is unbearable.
You remember the way?
Remember? Why, I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Turn and look, Scrooge.
Again the scene blew away, and Scrooge found himself standing in a bare, melancholy room, the only outstanding feature being rows of plain desks.
A schoolroom, not quite deserted. a single child neglected by his friends and left there still alone. Turn and look, Mr. Scrooge.
Must I?
Yes.
It's me.
The heart of the young Gascon was beating as though it would burst, not with fear. He felt not a shadow of that, but with emulation. He fought like an enraged tiger, turning round his adversary and constantly changing his ground. His adversary, well versed in the ways of the sword, had all the trouble in the world defending himself against so agile a foe.
All the other children had loving families and friendly houses to return to at Christmas. Alas, not I. I wish.
What do you wish?
Oh, there was a boy singing a Christmas carol outside my door last night. I should have liked to have given him something, that's all.
I see. Look who comes.
Why, it's Fan! My dear little sister, Fan!
Fan, how did you get here? What are you doing here? Home, little Fan? But Fan, what about Father? You were there when he sent me to this place. You heard what he said. You are quite a woman, little Fan, and this will be the merriest Christmas ever.
Oh, my dear little sister, Fan. Oh, I loved her so.
Always a delicate creature whom a breath might have withered, but she had a large heart. She died a married woman and had, as I think, children?
One child.
True. Your nephew.
Yes, Fred. I've seen enough. Take me back at once.
With the rush of wind and a gust of snow, Ebeneezer is in a busy thoroughfare. Shadows of carts, coaches, and people passing all around him.
Look you now, over yonder.
Suddenly, they are in an office where 3 men sit at desks. Only one of them is still hard at work.
Still working, Eb? I finished long ago.
Oh, there. Ebeneezer. Dick. No more worries tonight. It's Christmas Eve. It's time to celebrate.
We're ready.
Come, the ladies are waiting. My wife for me, my daughter for you, Dick, and a pretty girl for you, Ebeneezer. Someone you've never met before.
Really, sir? Who is she?
You'll meet her soon enough, but first, there's food on the table for everyone, all you can eat. Then some dancing. It is a time to celebrate.
Now Ebeneezer and the spirit found themselves in a most jolly scene. The warehouse floor had been cleared and lamps hung on the walls. A roaring fire heats the room. The timpani of the fire perfectly accompanies the lively musicians as people danced around the room, ate to their heart's content, and engaged one another in general merriment.
Here now, Ebeneezer, have some food. My dear wife, join me for a dance.
With a twirl of his arm and a wink of his eye, old Fezziwig had his wife in a most gracious spin onto the floor where they put all the other dancers to shame. A woman of slender frame with long flowing hair and fair features strode up to Ebeneezer. She was a woman of beauty, not simply because of her looks, but because she radiated kindness and compassion, beautiful inside and out. She took the breath out of young Ebeneezer.
Aren't you hungry, Ebeneezer?
You know my name. How do you know my name? Who told you?
Mr. Fezziwig.
But I don't know yours.
It's Belle.
Belle, as in the sound of Christmas. Someday, Miss Belle, when I'm a little older and have my own business.
Aren't you the sweet one? We've only just met. Come, let's join the others.
Someday when I'm a rich man and have more to offer you.
Oh, hush now. Come, let us celebrate.
And celebrate they did, dancing, singing, talking, and laughing throughout the night.
A lovely girl.
She was that. Very lovely.
And old Fezziwig. A small matter to make these silly folks so full of joy.
Small?
Yes, he spent but a few pounds of his mortal money on your small party. 3 or 4 pounds, perhaps. Does that deserve so much praise?
It isn't that, Spirit. He had the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. The happiness he gives is quite as great as it was cost a fortune. Why,
What's the matter?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Something, I think.
No, nothing. I should like to say a word or two to my clerk right now, that's all.
My time grows short. Look you there.
2 young adults were before Scrooge, older now than a moment ago. One, Belle, a fair young woman in a mourning dress, in whose eyes there were tears which sparkled in the light that shone out of the ghost of Christmas past. The other, a young man whose face had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye which had shown the passion that had taken root, and where the shadow of the growing tree would fall.
It matters little to you, very little, that another idol has displaced me. And if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you, Belle?
These past 6 years, a golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you. Am I?
Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so. Now you are changed. When our contract was made, you were another man.
I was a boy.
I was a boy.
Your own feelings tell you that you are not what you were. I am. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is full of misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it, and I can release you.
Don't release me, Belle.
Have I ever sought release?
In words? No, never.
In what, then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, in everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now?
Belle.
No.
You think not.
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. Heaven knows. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl, you who weigh everything by gain? Or, choosing her, if for a moment you were false enough to your one guiding principle to do so, do I not know that your repentance and regret would surely follow?
Please.
Please.
I do. And I release you, with a full heart, for the love of him you once were. You may, my memory of us together half makes me hope you will, have pain in this. A very, very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly, as an unprofitable dream, from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen for yourself.
Belle's words haunted Scrooge as Belle walked away and the world faded from sight.
No!
Yourself, alone.
No!
Goodbye, Ebeneezer.
Don't let her go!
Goodbye.
No, you fool! You mindless fool!
Fool. Mindless fool.
No, don't say that! Spirit, remove me from this place. I can bear no more. Why do you delight in torturing me so? I was a fool to throw away the love of the one girl that mattered to me. I threw away that love and chose instead the cold, heartless gleam of gold as the most important thing in my life. Please, Spirit, show me no more. I beg you.
Flakes of snow swirled around Scrooge and the ghost as he materialized in his bedchambers once more.
That these things are as you see them is no fault of mine. You could have made them different, but you chose not to. The torment you feel is of your own making. Now it is time for me to leave you.
Will I see you again?
I think not. But you will see my companions when the clock strikes 1. Farewell. And remember, you may yet change the face of things to come.
A great and deep exhaustion was upon Scrooge, and he was asleep almost before he finished laying in his bed. For what could have been minutes or could have been a great many hours, Scrooge slept. In the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, Scrooge awoke and sat up in his bed to get his thoughts together. He had not yet heard the stroke of 1. He would have a chance to challenge the spirit the moment of its appearance. He did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and consequently, when the bell struck 1 and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. The only light seemed to come from the clock, yet as Scrooge studied it, he began to think that the source and the secret of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room. This idea taking full possession of his mind, he got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the handle, a strange voice called him by his name and bade him to enter.
Ebeneezer Scrooge, the time has come for you to know me better.
Entering the room, Scrooge saw a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which gleaming berries glistened. In easy state upon a couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door, entering timidly with his head hung before the spirit.
Hello, how shall I call you?
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me.
Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in one simple green robe bordered with white fur. Its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of the garment, were bare, and on its head it wore no other covering than a holly wreath, seen here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its opening hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor, and its joyful air.
You have never seen the likes of me before, it seems.
No, never.
You have never walked forth with other members of my family?
I don't think I have. Have you had many brothers, Spirit?
More than 1,800.
That's a tremendous family to provide for. Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion. I learned a lesson which is working on me now. Tonight, if you have a lesson to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe.
Everything vanished instantly, and they stood in the city streets on Christmas morning. There was nothing very cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad, for the people were jovial and full of glee. Shops were still open and displayed food radiant in their glory. On they went, Scrooge and the spirit, invisible, into the suburbs of the town and straight to Scrooge's clerk's home.
Do you know where we are?
Simple home, perhaps out of a poor man, but I've never seen it before. Tell me, Spirit, who is it that lives in this house?
This is the home of your clerk, Bob Cratchit. This is Belinda coming to aid her mother with the table, and that is Peter by the fireplace reading. Watch.
Up rose Mrs. Cratchit. She laid a cloth upon the table, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, while Peter Cratchit attended the boiling potatoes. Two smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose and known it for their own. These young Cratchits danced about the table and exalted Peter while he blew the fire.
Mother, the pudding is done. Is there anything else?
Yes. Please help me set the table now. Your father and Tiny Tim will be home from church shortly.
Mother, why hasn't Martha come yet?
She must have had a little work to finish. I'm sure she will come along shortly.
She'll come. We can count on it. Peter, doesn't everything smell so good? And best of all, the pudding. Come on, let's go taste it.
As Belinda and Peter moved through the house, a most welcome guest arrived home.
Merry Christmas, everyone! Where are Belinda and Peter?
Martha! They went to taste the pudding. Merry Christmas, dear. Give your mother a hug. You are like ice. Come warm yourself by the fire. Martha, they don't know there wasn't enough money to buy the goose this year. Do what you can to keep them happy.
Who needs it? We have so much else.
Here come Father and Tim. Quick, Martha, hide.
Why?
To play a little trick on them. Come on.
All right, I'll hide, but where?
Here, behind the coat.
You silly goose. That's the first place they will look when they come in. No, hide here under the table.
No, they'll see her there too.
Hurry, here they are. Step behind us.
Merry Christmas, everybody! Merry Christmas, Mother. A Merry Christmas, Peter and Belinda. Whew. My, it's cold out there. Why, where is Martha?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming on Christmas Day?
No, not coming on Christmas Day.
Oh, what's this? Who is that hiding back there? Is that talking cat again come to Christmas dinner?
Surprise!
Oh, Martha, you... Oh.
That cat.
They put me up to it.
Martha!
Hello, Tiny Tim.
Children, what is that I smell? Ooh, that pleasing odor filling these rooms like gold fills a rich man's pockets.
That's the pudding, Father.
Come, Tiny Tim. Let's go hear the pudding sing in the copper.
The pudding? What flavor have we?
Why, plum, of course.
Oh, Mother, I love plum pudding.
Come, Tim. Belinda and Peter, are you coming?
Good.
Let's go.
Ah, Mother. Today I am the richest man in all of London.
Rich? Living in this house? And on what I pay him?
Yes, Bob. We are truly blessed with such wonderful jewels. How did little Tim behave in church, dear?
Oh, as good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much, and he thinks the strangest things you ever heard. Now, he told me coming home that he hoped people saw him in church because he was a cripple, and it might make people remember on Christmas Day who it was that made lame beggars walk and blind men see. He has the oddest ideas sometimes, but he seems all the while to be growing stronger and more hardy. Well, one would never know.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
Oh, no, kind spirit. You say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
My own words.
Man, if man you be in heart, take back those wicked words until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what man shall live, what man shall die?
I was wrong.
Children, come. Take your places for the Christmas toast.
Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob held his withered little hand in his, and he loved the child and wished to keep him by his side, and dreaded that Tim might be taken from him. At last, the dishes were set on, and grace was said.
Sit down, Peter. I'll pour, and you can pass it around. Now, who'll propose the toast?
God bless us, everyone!
Well said, Tiny Tim. I give you another toast. I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
What? Me?
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here, that miser Scrooge. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I'd hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, it's Christmas Day.
Only on Christmas Day could one drink to the health of such an odious, stingy, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge.
Dear, it's Christmas Day.
I'll drink to his health, for your sake and the day, but not for his. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you, Mr. Scrooge, wherever you may be on this day.
I'm here, kind madam. Just out of sight.
Come, Scrooge, there is yet more to see.
As they faded, they looked happier yet in the bright sprinkling of the spirit's torch. Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. By this time it was getting pretty dark and snowing pretty heavy, and as Scrooge and the spirit went along the streets, it was a great surprise to Scrooge to hear a hearty laugh. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew's and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the spirit standing smiling by his side and looking at the same nephew with approving affability.
Look you there.
It's my nephew Fred, the one he married. And friends. Is this the dinner?
Mary, that was truly a lovely dinner.
Indeed, the goose was cooked and seasoned to perfection.
Yes, but you didn't have to eat every last morsel.
Come, Fred. Tell us the latest about dear Uncle Scrooge.
No, not now. Not on a full stomach.
I have a better idea. Let's play a game.
What should it be? Blind man's bluff or yes and no?
Ooh, yes and no.
Oh, I love this game.
Very well. I will think of something, and the rest of you must find out what. I will only answer your questions with yes or no. Everyone ready?
Ready.
I have it. Ask away.
Is it an animal, mineral, or vegetable?
You can.
Yes.
Dear, you can only ask yes or no questions. That's the name of the game.
Oh, right. Is it a vegetable?
No.
Is it a mineral?
No.
Then it must be an animal.
Yes.
Is it alive?
Yes.
Is it a pretty animal?
Pretty? No.
Is it disagreeable?
Most certainly.
Is it a wild animal?
I would say so.
It's a bear.
Does it growl?
Oh, yes.
I told you. It's a bear.
Does it talk?
Why, yes.
It's a parrot.
Parrots do not growl, my dear.
No, not a parrot.
Does it live in Africa?
No.
Does it live in a zoo?
No.
Does it live in London?
It does.
A wild animal that growls and is disagreeable and lives in London. I've got it.
Yes?
It's your Uncle Scrooge.
Yes.
Oh, all right, Fred. Tell them what you told me about your uncle.
This strikes me as odd to think of what he said. He said Christmas was a humbug, as I live. The worst of it is he believed it.
More the shame for him, Fred.
No, he's a pleasant enough fellow. It's just his own actions that make him so grouchy.
I have no patience with him.
Oh, I have. I'm sorry for him, too. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by all his ill whims? Himself, always.
Not. Yes, always.
Consider this. Uncle Scrooge takes it into his head to dislike us, so he refuses to come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He misses a fine Christmas dinner just because he's stubborn.
Well, I, for one, am happy he didn't come to dinner. After all, I'm the one who profited from his absence.
Well, that's his loss. Let's change the subject.
But first, a toast. A toast to Uncle Scrooge.
A toast to him?
Uncle Scrooge has given us plenty of merriment, and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. So I say, Uncle Scrooge.
You are a proper loon, Fred, and I am a proper wife to you. To Uncle Scrooge.
To Uncle Scrooge. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, Uncle Scrooge, wherever you may be on this day.
Nephew, I'm sorry.
Scrooge and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end, until they were once again in Scrooge's home.
Spirit, who? What? Is that behind you? Children. Where do they come from? Are they yours?
From the foldings of its robe, It brought 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They were a boy and a girl. Yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out, a stale, shriveled hand, like that of age, had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds.
No, they are man's. They are yours. The boy is ignorance, and the girl is want. Beware them both and all like them, but most of all beware the boy, for he has doom written upon his brow. Unless the writing is erased.
Why are they here now? Have they no place to go or no one to take care of them?
Are there no prisons? Aren't the union workhouses still in operation?
Ashamed, Scrooge looked away from the spirit, feeling the sting of his own words. As the church bell struck its 12th hour, Scrooge turned back to the ghost, but saw it not. He remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and, lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom draped and hooded, approaching like a mist along the grounds toward him. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its entirety and left nothing of its visible save one outstretched hand.
Am I in the presence of the ghosts of Christmas yet to come? You are about to show me the shadows of things that have not happened but will happen in time before us. Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen, but as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to be a better man than I was, I am prepared to join you with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? What is it that you're pointing to? I'm afraid I will watch, Spirit.
The phantom moved away as it had come towards him, Scrooge following in the shadow of its dress. They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
No, I don't think about it much either. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
Who knows? Or even who cares?
What did he do with all his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know a living soul who'd care to venture to it in this cold. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer.
I don't mind going if lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I'm to go. Well, we better hurry up or we'll miss everything.
Spirit, why do you show me this? What man are they talking about? They seem not at all upset about some man's passing. This can't have any bearing on the death of my old partner. Jacob Marley, that's not past in your province is the future. Spirit, why did you let me hear this trivial conversation?
They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town where Scrooge had never been before, although he recognized its situation and its bad repute. Far in this den of infamous resort there was a low-browed shop filled with refuse of all kinds. Sitting amongst it all was a gray-haired rascal smoking his pipe in all the luxury of calm retirement. Scrooge and the phantom came into the presence of this man just as 2 women with heavy bundles slunk into the shop, followed closely by a man in faded black.
You have something for me.
That I have, and I want a good price for it, too.
You think a pawnbroker ever gets rich?
A rascal like you, yes.
So I'm not the first one here. You too?
And why not? Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
True indeed. No man more so.
If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, the old screw, why wasn't he natural in his lifetime?
If he had been, he'd have had somebody to look after him when he's struck with death. instead of lying gasping out his last there, alone by himself.
It's the truest word that ever was spoken. It's a judgment on him.
Here you go, old Joe. Take a look.
Hey, I was here first.
Wait your turn. Not much here. A pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, and a brooch. Worth very little, this brooch.
Yeah, but you'll give me something for it. These two picked him clean before I had my chance.
Here, look at this. Some sheets, towel, silver teaspoons, a pair of sugar tongs.
Mine's much better. His bed curtains.
You don't mean to say you took him down, rings and all, with him lying there?
Why not?
You were born to make a fortune, you were.
That I will, but look at these. His blankets, too.
He isn't likely to take cold without him, I dare say.
Scavengers, all of them. For just a few shillings, they robbed some dead man of everything they could find? Spirit, remove me from this place. If there is a person in town who feels emotion connected with death, show that person to me, I beg you.
The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment like a wing, and withdrawing it, revealed a room where a mother and her children were seated round the fire. It was Bob Cratchit's house. It was quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were all sitting as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and daughters were engaged in sewing.
This poor light hurts my eyes. Thank you, Peter. You read well.
Mother, it must be near time for Father to come home, isn't it?
Rather past it, I think. He walks so much slower now that Tim was so light to carry.
Oh, no. Not the little one. Not the innocent. He's gone?
Here's Father now. Father, good evening.
Good evening, all.
You made the arrangements today, then? For the service? To be on Sunday?
Hi, my dear. I wish you could have been there. It would have done your heart good to see how green and peaceful the place is. But you'll see it often. I promised Tim we would walk there every Sunday. Oh, my little child, my dear little Tim.
Dear Robert, remember the children?
I'd forgotten. Children, do you know who I met today on the street?
Who? Tell us who it was, Father.
I met Mr. Scrooge's nephew, Fred. He was so sorry to hear about our dear Tim and offered to help in any way he could.
That was very generous of him, too. And I dare say he hardly knows us.
It wasn't for the sake of anything he might be able to do for us so much as for his kindness in the offering. I tell you, he was so sincere in his generosity that it was as if he had known our Tim all his life. I know none of us will ever forget poor tiny Tim. His patience and mild manner. It's in his memory, family. We must be stronger now than ever.
The spirit conveyed him, as before, to a churchyard. Here, then, a wretched man lay underneath the ground.
Spirit, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man was whom we saw lying dead.
The spirit stood amongst the graves and pointed down to one.
Why do you point that way? You wish me to approach that place? Before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they the shadows of the things that may be only? Men's courses foreshadow certain ends to which if followed they must lead, but if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus with what you show me. Speak to me, spirit. Tell me what that stone says. I fear to look upon it. Ebeneezer Scrooge. Spirit. It can't be. No, I beg you, it can't be so. Spirit, hear me. I'm not the man I once was. I've learned my lesson. I will honor Christmas in my heart, and I will keep it all year long. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three will live within me. I will not shut out the lesson they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on that stone. Please, I beg you.
Holding up his hands in a last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. It was Scrooge's bedpost. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in.
Singing. I'm in my own bed. I'm in my own room. I'm alive. I'm alive. Oh, heaven and Christmas be praised for this. Oh, I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. Oh, I don't know what to do first. I'm as light as a feather, merry as a schoolboy, happy as an angel.
Throwing open his bedroom window, Scrooge addressed the world.
Hello, everybody. Oh, Merry Christmas to all the world. Why, I don't even know what day it is. Hello there, you girl.
Who? Me, sir?
Yes, you. Now tell me, what's today, my dear?
Today? Why, Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Oh, the spirits have done it all in one night. Well, they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello again, my fine dear.
Hello again, sir.
Do you know the poulterer in the next street in the corner?
I should hope so. My father owns that shop.
Oh, remarkable girl. Do you know whether they've sold that prime goose that was hanging up there? Not the little prize goose, but the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
Oh, what a delightful girl. It's a pleasure to talk with her. Yes, my dear.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Well, here. Catch. Go and buy it and tell them to bring it here. Come back with the goose. I'll give you a shilling. Come back in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown. I'll have that goose delivered to Bob Cratchit's and he'll be so surprised. No, on second thought, I'll take it. I'll take it there and surprise him myself. Oh, and as for Tiny Tim, I'll see that nothing happens to him.
Scrooge dressed himself all in his best and at last got out into the streets just as the girl returned.
Here you are, sir.
Why, you must have flown. Here's that half crown I promised you.
Thank you, sir, and a very Merry Christmas to you.
And a Merry Christmas to you.
Goose in hand, Scrooge started toward Bob Cratchit's house. He had not gone far when, coming on towards him, he beheld the two men who had walked into his counting house the day before and said, "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe." It sent a pang across his heart to think how he had treated them. Quickening his pace, he took them both by the hand.
You, sirs! I hope you succeeded yesterday. A very Merry Christmas.
Merry Mr. Scrooge.
Oh, that's right. Merry Christmas. I'm happy we've met. You remember visiting my office yesterday afternoon?
Yes.
We most certainly do.
Yes, well, I said many mean and unkind things to you. Since that time, much has happened, and I have changed my mind.
I'm afraid we don't understand, sir.
Well, maybe this will help you understand. I have decided to give you...
Lord bless me! My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to
Don't
such a...
say anything, please. I thank you 50 times. Bless you and have a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. And a Merry Christmas to you. Your gift will make many people happy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Scrooge. And a Happy New Year as well.
He went to the church and walked about the streets, and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He never dreamed that any walk could give him so much happiness. Soon he turned his steps toward his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock.
Uncle Scrooge, what is it?
Yesterday you asked me to share Christmas dinner with you.
Yes, sir, but you said...
I know what I said. And I was a fool. I've changed my mind. I will no longer be a bear. I've decided to fill my time with only good things. I'll enjoy myself for a change, so if that invitation is still open...
Of course, Uncle. Please join us for Christmas dinner.
Oh, then it is settled. But first I must deliver this little package to my clerk, Bob Cratchit.
Uncle, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Who is at the door, my love? Oh, Uncle.
My dear niece, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Now, I should see you again shortly. I must first pay a visit to my clerk, Bob Cratchit.
Such joy was filling Scrooge's heart now that he seemed to float above the ground itself. A Merry Christmas upon his lips for all those he passed, and a coin in every tin for those that were in need. Soon, he approached the small house that a mere day ago he would not have known from any other.
I'll have a quick listen at the door and have some fun with old Bob.
Children, come, take your places for the Christmas toast. Sit down, Peter, I'll pour, and you can pass it around. Now, who will propose the toast?
Let's make it a carol.
Cratchit, open this door at once. Mr. Bob Cratchit.
What on earth?
It sounded like... But that's impossible. Not him, of all people.
Bob Cratchit, I said, let me in at once.
Upon my soul, it is him. It's Mr. Scrooge. Martha, go let him in.
He has his nerve.
Hush, my dear. Hello, Mr. Scrooge. Welcome.
Cratchit, just what do you mean by not coming into work today?
But, Mr. Scrooge, don't you remember you gave me...
You know I never give anything to anyone. Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. Therefore, I am going to raise your salary.
I don't believe it. The man's lost his mind. He's gone stark raving mad.
Hush, Mother.
No, Bob, she's quite right. What I've said does sound like I'm quite out of my mind. However, that is beside the point. I have had another surprise for you, and I left it outside.
Can I go get it? Please, can I? I'll go get it.
No, you best send all the children. Now, I suppose you're puzzled by what I have said. Well, let's just say that I've promised myself to honor Christmas in my heart, and I will keep the spirit all year round.
If so, how much is this raise you're offering, Bob?
Mother?
No, Bob, that's quite all right. I admire a practical person. I am raising Bob's salary 100 pounds per year.
Whoa. 100 pounds?
The man has lost his wits.
And furthermore, I want you to take Tiny Tim to the finest doctors in London. You spare no expense. Just see that he is cured. And have all the bills sent to me. Understand?
Yes, sir, but we'll never be able to repay you.
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year.
Look, Mother.
It's
Father.
a big goose.
It's bigger than I am. What a beautiful bird. Children, set it down here before you drop it.
I don't know what to say, Mr. Scrooge. Won't you stay and have dinner with us?
Oh, thank you very much for the offer, but I am going to my nephew's for dinner. I must be on my way. Merry Christmas to you all.
Please share grace with us before you leave.
Now, on one condition.
Name it.
That you let me hold Tiny Tim.
Of course.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more, and to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. He had no further intercourse with spirits, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone!
You've been listening to A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This was originally adapted for stage by Kevin Neuharth, who then allowed us to adapt it for podcast by Jacob Jenkins. Appearing in this version of A Christmas Carol by order of appearance was Ryan Haider as the narrator, Angela Schnaible as Martha Cratchit and Fan, Jacob Jenkins as Bob Cratchit, Joe Koppinger as Scrooge, Andy Busch as Fred and Business Person 1, Topher Hodge as Do-Gooder, Alex Dhuyvetter-Gil as Do-Gooder, Chad Schnaible as Marley, Chad Gifford as Beggar and Dick, Amanda Lindstrom as the Ghost of Christmas Past, Greg Vettel as Boy Scrooge and Young Scrooge, Seth Honerman as Fezziwig and as Joe, Brittany Armstrong as Belle, Justin Anderson as the Ghost of Christmas Present, Jenna Johnson as Belinda, Peg Morris as Mrs. Cratchit, Christian Gifford as Peter and Tiny Tim, Jamie Vettel as Grace, Grant Johnson as Roger and Business Person 2, Joey Nesdahl as Jonathan, Amy Jenkins as Emma, Sarah Honerman as Mary, Janet Anderson as Shar, Crystal Michaels as Lon, Aaron Michaels as Undertaker, and Ariel Files as Girl. If you enjoyed this production, please let us know by leaving a comment or emailing jacob.jenkins@ndus.edu. If you'd like to hear other dramas, let us know as well. I wish to thank everyone that made this production possible and acknowledge all of our talented actors. Thank you especially to all the friends and family that supported this production. I would also like to thank Mouse River Players for allowing us to release this special version of A Christmas Carol on the Talking Boards podcast. I'd also like to thank the Bomber Nation Berthold Public School for allowing us to release this on the Bomber Nation podcast, The Bomber Buzz. Please make sure you check out the Talking Boards podcast and the Bomber Buzz to hear about things that are going on with Mouse River Players and Berthold Public School. This has been a Tipsy Dragon Players production of A Christmas Carol, produced by Jacob Jenkins and Chad Gifford, directed by Jacob Jenkins and Chad Gifford, sound design and mixing by Jacob Jenkins. Thank you for listening. Merry Christmas.